Alrighty, and welcome back to another episode of DCW. Today is Thursday, August 14th, as I'm recording this, and there's been a fair amount that happened this week, so I'm gonna kind of jump right into it here. I think we're gonna start with Mr. Karrion Kross. If you haven't been paying attention this week, Karrion Kross and Scarlet are done with the WWE officially. They are no longer with the company, moved to the alumni section. Uh, Contracts ended on August 10th. There was also a pretty good part two to his documentary that he released originally back at WrestleMania time. We got the second part to that also released on Sunday, titled My WWE Contract Ends Today. So that's where we're at currently. Um, on Tuesday this week, he goes on Ariel Hawani's show and really dispels a lot of the rumor that's been going around. Um, Everybody's thinking it's a work, that he was going to show up maybe on Monday night, maybe in the next few weeks. I personally was sort of that ilk. I thought it was a work for a little bit. I do not think so anymore. I think if you still think it's a work, um, it'd be a pretty shit work as far as how it makes the WWE look. So I don't think it's still a work. I hope it's not, because we're laying it on a little thick at this point. If it is, um, I think what we're more likely sitting on is what Carrie I say Carrie what Kevin and Elizabeth or Scarlett and Killer Cross want to be is sort of a truth situation where they did get released. They really did get released, and they're hoping that either through fan outcry, through just general continued support. Last I looked, I haven't looked in the last day or two, but their shirts were still up on WWEshop.com. Now, of course, Carrion also has shirts now up. Scarlett and Cross both have shirts up on Pro Wrestling Tees as well, which would probably be a better buy at this point to directly support them. But I guess if you had an extra few bucks laying around, you could buy a WWE Cross shirt just to be like, hey, we still want them. More of a direct representation at the company. That being said, they're gone. And I want to talk about some of the things here. It was very weird how this whole thing went down, and I think there was a lot of the conversation. There was a lot of the conversation on Ariel Hawani's show. I've watched the whole interview. That the whole thing was kind of weird from from Cross's standpoint, from our standpoint, what we're seeing, what we have seen in the last few months since WrestleMania, um, where he did have a groundswell of support. And personally, I'm a Cross fan. I was so happy to see it, have been, and will love to see more of him wherever he does end up, whatever he ends up doing. Um, but it was very weird. He confirmed on the Ariel's show that he didn't have a contract in hand until last week, even though he had expressed interest months prior. Now, we had seen that more so recently. I think I think it was Kevin Owens maybe comes to mind, and there has been history with, like, say, Chad Gable working without a contract, um, or on stopgap deals of they're coming right up to the end of their contract, and they haven't renewed anything. They do it the week of. Um, but based on Cross's details here, it seems like that may have been the case, but maybe not for his benefit. He says he gets the contract in hand, and he asks to see some more detail about how they got to those numbers. Now, he doesn't say to Ariel whether that means they were high or the number was high or low. You would imagine if he was that concerned about seeing the detail of how we got there, the number was low. added to the fact that Scarlett did not have a contract offer at that time. They said, "Let's deal with you, and then we'll sign. Then we'll get Scarlett's contract." That leads me to believe that they lowballed him and they didn't want Scarlett, or if they did, they wanted Scarlett for pennies on the dollar. Which, from a company standpoint, I can understand a little more. Uh, Having, I guess, an accounting background, I get it on the face. To some degree, you look at Kross and Scarlet, and you look at the last few years since they've been back in WWE. And Kross had a pretty big showing at the beginning where he was, paired up with Drew. Um, he even beat Drew McIntyre back when he, come back into the company in 2022, 23. But since then, we've had a lot of stuff fall on its face, and I think it's a little unfair. It's not even just a little unfair. It is unfair, I think, to blame a lot of that on Kross. I mean, the New Testament was booked to lose. You keep him off TV for months at a time, and then he does get this groundswell of support. You lowball him with a contract offer, make him lose to the first guy he actually has a real match with on TV. You know, I get it, because if you look at the books, you go, Kross is probably making decent money. Scarlett's making decent money. Neither of them are on TV that much. And especially, as far as Scarlett's concerned, she doesn't wrestle. She's a manager. Um, she could wrestle. That's their decision. That's the decision to not have her wrestle. But um, I get it. At the same time, I don't. It's kind of a bet of their own making, to keep him off TV and book him in such a way. His promos have been pretty damn good, and I think his in-ring work is damn good. Um, it's odd. It's odd to do it in that fashion if you didn't just want him gone. And I've seen a lot of people point out that pretty much all the new hires, not new hires, the rehires from 2022 that Triple H made, they're all gone. Whether they were let go in 2025 or sooner, he was one of the last ones hanging on. So, you know, uh, I wonder what happened there, because a lot of these people were also Triple H's people. They were rehired because they did so well in NXT. Um, you look at Dakota Kai, you look at Kross being the big one. Um, Strowman did well outside of NXT and was brought back in 2022, and he did some good work um, in his rehire phase, but he didn't make it either. Um, it. I wonder how much of it is the way he was booked, and maybe these are connected. I look at it and I look at the main event scene right now, and damn, it's stacked. Uh, you got your Drews, your Randys, your Codys, your CM Punks, your Rollins, your Romans, um, KO until recently. They've got a pretty built out main event scene. And I think Kross could have fit well and done well enough in the mid card, but we never really saw him there. We should have, because again, he was put on TV, beats Drew, and then disappears. Um, it feels like a waste in a way. But I wonder, sorry, I got a little distracted. I wonder if the plan, if it wasn't, we want him in the main event, but there's just no room, and we can't figure out a way to piece him into the lower scene that makes any sense. I think that's a crap way to do it, but I wonder if that's not part of what happened here with his booking. And the creative was never there for him at the mid card scene, and there was no space for him at the upper echelon, and so he just doesn't get used. It's a It's a crap again. It's a crap way to do it, but I totally see that that's a possibility. Where he just gets put on the back burner because they want to bring him in, and then they just never do. They never find the time. We've got 7 other stories going on with whether the bloodline or what's with Cody and what all has evolved from that. Now Seth and the world heavyweight title with Gunther holding it forever. Um, it just didn't happen. So, anyways, he's gone. One of the big, another big thing that I think came out of Ariel Helwani was that Triple H didn't know about the WrestleMania recap podcast being a work, and that sort of evolved very quickly after the uh, little spot at the Hall of Fame that he had done with Rosenberg. And apparently somebody had seen that and said they wanted more of that. They wanted to see it again. I'm assuming it's somebody that does the online. Maybe there's a sort of online division that podcast is under the recap with Roberts and Megan Morant. So it seems like that sort of group went, this is great. Do more of this. Let's come on to the WrestleMania recap and do that. And then this left hand was supposed to talk to the right and say that this is not a work. I'm not going into business for myself. That didn't happen. Left hand didn't talk to the right. Kross has to go to Triple H himself and say that, hey, this wasn't a work. This was this wasn't a shoot. This was a work. Somebody was supposed to tell you this. Now you could argue that, hey man, maybe you should have done that to begin with if that was a concern. But I get it not being a concern. You had the conversation with the creative people, somebody attached to the creative team. That this they should know this isn't a shoot. But again, that doesn't happen. Maybe that contributed to his release this time around. Maybe it didn't. Maybe not. There's a few other things in this. There was a few things in this as I was listening to the interview at the start. I still thought it could be a work. I still thought it might have been a work, and I thought we were just doing a long play, and that we were gonna really sell the "I'm gone. I've got the pro wrestling tees up. Um, I'm doing this sort of thing." There's little nuggets in there, like he dropped how big of a Brian Pillman fan he is. The he's already brought it up before, but talking to Truth about where he's at and the title that this WWE universe put on him, saying that that he's their guy, that's something that the company can't take away from him. But just having that conversation with Truth, there's what Heyman said on Ariel's podcast the week before. And just little things like that were what sort of kept me on the string of maybe this is a work. But then as we get later into the podcast, and he really doubles down on this is not a work, and he talks about not wanting to play games. He doesn't want to make his sort of career and life into a game. This is real shit. It's real. He really doesn't have a job right now. That being said, they'll book. I think he's the hottest free agent in wrestling at the moment. So they will book. And I think those pro wrestling tees are going to do just fine. I'm probably going to purchase one myself. So, it is a shame to see him go. And this is now his second time being released in 5 years. Maybe even shorter, maybe 4 years. I don't know if he comes back a third time. And there's people speculating that, he should go to AEW or he should go to TNA. And I don't know that I like either of those plans. I think TNA is a little too close to WWE at the moment. And I'm struggling to see where he fits in there and makes an impact. Not because he couldn't, but because the roster is stacked. And to bring him in would throw off trajectories they're already on. And that's a very difficult booking situation for him right now. That doesn't mean that he doesn't go there eventually or shouldn't go there in, say, 4 to 6 months. Maybe, January, February next year, we're having a different conversation. But right now, with the way WWE is tied up with TNA titles and yada yada, I think that's not the best move. And as far as going to AEW, I worry that he would end up like a lot of other of the WWE guys that end up there, where he would come in, him and Scarlett would make a big splash for about 3 weeks to a month. Then he would fade out. And also, AEW puts out a slightly different product, and I think is perfect for Kross. He is better on the promo side, the vignette side, the act, the more sort of entertainment side of it. He does just fine in the ring. He does good in the ring, but it's not the level of emphasis that they tend to do in AEW. AEW tends to be a little more, I think, work rate focused. And not that Kross isn't a good worker, but I think his talents lead to better promo skills, better mic skills. And I don't know that he would be given the opportunity to do that there in a way that's so beneficial. I think the only guy that has done that there is MJF. I think Hangman does great. I think Swerve does great. But to the level that Kross is, I think he's closer to an MJF than he is to a Hangman or a Swerve in that regard. So I don't know that it would benefit him as much to be there long term. Now, if he could do some one-off dates there, I actually think that would be very good. I think if somebody's doing an open challenge or some sort of quick tie-in, now, of course, that doesn't make sense because that's not how wrestling contracts work unless he does buy appearance dates and they say, all right, you're going to show up for 6 weeks and do this run and we'll see what happens. Maybe that could possibly happen. That's not impossible, less likely, but not impossible. However, though, I would love, I think, to see him go more of the Matt Cardona route. Be king of the indies for a while. Run roughshod over the indies. I mean, they're going to book you as a monster. And I think that's how Kross works best, as a sadistic monster. And the indies, man, he could run roughshod over everybody. I think that's the place to go. I think that really is the place for them. Do all the appearances, do all the signings, keep your pro wrestling tees up, do the indie shows. Please do a show near DC. Would love to see that, but I think that's where they're headed. I think that's where they should be headed, and I think that may be where they're headed for a while. Maybe MLW. I don't know. Because there was also the concern from other companies not reaching out because they didn't know if this was a work or not. They weren't sure if Kross and Scarlet were actually available. I think that's probably weaned off as the week has gone on, certainly. But we'll see where they show up next. I think they have announced their first appearance sometime in November, but they will absolutely show up somewhere else before that. They will show up and wrestle somewhere before that. So he did make a point to say that the current dates they have set wouldn't result in them not coming back. There wasn't anything in place that would keep them from being able to come back to WWE. And that's one of the things that he's saying that, I think they really are gone for the time being. He's hoping and making it clear that the door is open. And I wonder if there really isn't some backstage heat there. And that's why he's being so open and public about, hey, I'm still at the table. There's no heat here. I know you guys may think I wanted to shoot on all this, but I don't. I'm trying to let you know that I'm still at the table for discussions whenever you want. So yeah, that's the Kross situation. I am sad to see him go. I loved him. Of course, they'll be around. Killer Cross is back, I believe. We'll see Killer Cross on the Indies soon, hopefully. And I'm excited to see where he goes next because I think there's a fire in there now, hopefully, that will put out some really good shit, especially if he keeps up with the social media stuff like he's been doing. Um, I'd actually love to see more on the YouTube front. I think he could do some really good stuff. Um, sort of YouTube vignettes, a few minutes long at a time, sort of piecing this whole indie run together that he may be about to go on. So, that being said, let's talk about SmackDown from last week as we get ready to go into that tomorrow. Now, SmackDown, we start with babyface John Cena coming out to talk to the crowd. And let me say this. I was on board for the John Cena heel turn because we never got to see it. This was one of those, if not now, then never. Absolutely, let's do it. Unfortunately, I don't know that it was my favorite few months of his, but it was just fine. However, it may have given me a better appreciation because let me tell you, watching him walk out and run down with Stu again, knowing that this man is a babyface. He's not about to swerve us at the end of the match like we thought possible at SummerSlam. This man is back to being a babyface, and that just felt right. Everything about it felt right. The way he talked during the promo, his demeanor, the whole thing, his face, it all felt right. His body language, it was perfect. So happy that we got babyface John Cena back. And he runs through that, he's worried we'll forget him when he leaves, which I think is not going to happen. I did think it was funny that he may have thrown a little jab in there. I think Triple H in one of the post-show things had said that, or in the days after SummerSlam had said that, Cena wanted Brock. Somebody had said, maybe it wasn't exactly Triple H. Let me hold off on that. They had said that Cena wanted Brock for his return, and Cena maybe makes a jab at that, saying that why would I ask for at this point in my career? Why would I ask to have to deal with Brock Lesnar? Now, I think that's the kayfabe answer. I think the real answer may be that Brock Lesnar is one of John Cena's greatest opponents, greatest obstacles, and I wonder if he's going to get the win here. I don't know. I think if it's John Cena's last match, he may actually. And it's looking like it might be his last match now. They're talking about having it run against AEW at the end of the year in December. Originally, the plans were John's last match to be at a Saturday night's main event in December, but now it looks like it might not be. It might be right after Christmas against Brock Lesnar. And, I think some of that depends on if we're getting a full Brock run here. If we get a Brock run to next summer at SummerSlam where he retires, I think that's possible. But I do hope Cena beats Brock here. I said it last week, I'm over seeing Brock Lesnar. I didn't need to see him. The interesting stories are gone for me. There's nobody I want to see him want to see him face anymore. Not at this point in time. The people I would consider wanting to see him face are too young. Because I don't think giving Braun Breaker a win over Brock Lesnar in the next year is on the table, or really helps him that much. I think it's too soon. I think it'd be like them giving Roman Reigns the win over Brock, which they did, and nobody cared. His original wins over like Brock and Undertaker, it was too early. People weren't ready. And I think we're not ready for Braun Breaker to do that either. So, I mean, it doesn't mean I guess they couldn't have the match. I would still be interested in seeing that. I just think Braun Breaker loses that, and he doesn't have the time. We don't have the time to turn it around and have him beat Brock in a few years if Brock's not sticking around for a few years. So we'll see. Does look like that's where it's going. I believe Brock is on SmackDown tomorrow night, so maybe we'll get some more information there about the Cena plan going forward. Because it does look like Logan Paul and Cena are on for Clash in Paris. That Brock match is not going to be there. Yeah, after Cena talks for a minute, Logan Paul comes out, interrupts him. Logan Paul now has a John Cena problem. Logan Paul shoots off of the mouth, says, reminds John that he told him he was better at wrestling than anyone in the WWE, including himself. John says that's correct. However, you are still the biggest dumbass I know. Which is fair. Fair and true. And we end up getting Logan and Drew versus Cody and John at the end of the night. All well and good. That does end. I think the more pertinent information at the end of that is what happens with Drew and Cody. Now, I'm not sure what was up with it. So, Logan gets disqualified, and then Cody grabs Drew and throws him into the ring post and into the steel steps. That was a little aggressive for a babyface, but whatever. Drew grabs the belt, hits Cody over the head with it. And it's at this point, Drew is in a trance with that belt. He gets lost in it, loses himself. He almost gives it back to the ref and then doesn't. He pulls it away again. And it's in that moment that Drew remembered why he does this. Why does he wrestle? It's for the belt. He let himself get distracted over the last year and a half or so after he got conned out of the belt. Why was he going after Damian Priest and CM Punk and everyone he's faced since then? It's because they cost him the belt. This whole thing, his whole arc started because of the belt. And he never really got to enjoy the belt with fans. He had it. He beat Brock Lesnar for the belt years ago in COVID, and helped carry the company during those times. And he hasn't really gotten back since. And not only has he not gotten back, the first time we end up going over the pond, and having a PLE near his home country, he's getting beat by Roman for it. So at this moment, Drew remembers what it's all about. And I think he loses it. He remembers that I need this. This is what I'm here for. And Cody has it. Cody must be eliminated. And that's what he goes to do. Claymore's Cody through that announce table. I don't know that we had seen I don't believe we've seen a front table spot like that yet with these new tables. It looked brutal. The camera work on that was impressive. It looked devastating. And I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see Cody this week. We're getting Brock this week, so I don't think we're getting Cody or Cena for that matter. Maybe we do with Brock being there, but I think we traded Cena and Cody for Brock. But yeah, it was brutal. I think we may not see Cody this week. We'll see him next week. I think it's next week or 2 weeks. We'll see him again before we get to Clash in Paris. But it looks like where we're going is Cody versus Drew. I don't think Drew wins here either, unfortunately for him. But I'm excited to see the match. Very excited to see where this goes. Other things on SmackDown, we got Tala Tonga, and I believe his first TV match. I could be wrong there, but I believe that's his first actual in-ring competition. Him and JC Mateo beating the Motor City Machine Guns. And it looks like they may be heading for those tag belts. Are we looking to build these MFTs back up? Are we going to get Solo with the U.S. title and his boys with the tag titles, possibly um, be a decent addition to the tag mix. Which, on that note, looks like the Wyatt Six are sort of positioning themselves to be the sort of evil ruler of the tag division for the time being, saying that they have more lessons to teach all the good spookiness and whatnot. Finally got to see them on a promo shot again, which I'm very happy to have seen. Excited to see what happens with that as we go on. We also had Charlotte and Alexa's celebration of friendship, very much akin to the Jericho and KO one from a few years back. I guess at this point it may have been closer to a decade, but anyways, that hurts. Um, but that was great. Charlotte has the doll that Alexa gave her. Chelsea comes out, ruins that, gets her face smashed in the cake for her troubles in route to a loss to Charlotte. And we get a backstage promo from Aleister Black, a vignette promo. Um, and let me just say, I love Aleister Black. I loved him first run in WWE, loved him in NXT, loved what he was doing in AEW. The House of Black was badass. And I'm glad to see we're sort of keeping on that train as he fused with Damian. Um, just great promo. Um, you push me, I push you off the cliff. I'm not an eye for an eye. I'm an eye for a limb, an eye for a body. Just, dude's badass. Straight up, dude's badass. I love it. I'm a sucker for that kind of thing. So, but moving over to Raw this week, Naomi missed. Looks like she might be pregnant. Nobody knows. It's not confirmed. Maybe she just fell off that damn suitcase bike thing that she's been riding around on. I couldn't tell you, but uh, who knows what happens there. I think if she does have to go away for a long time, like you speculated, it could really shake up that title picture. And it's a shame Liv's not back yet. So I'd love to see her get it again. Because otherwise, I feel like we're going to force ourselves into the Rhea and Io storyline a little quicker than we wanted to. Because I do think Io ends up with that title. That being said, it looks like, maybe not. Because we got that segment with Asuka and Kairi Sane. The Kabuki Warriors and Io having a little bit of mix up. Looks like maybe we're getting an Asuka heel turn at some point. I mean, it's still pretty early. It's kind of, it could have just been a miscommunication that goes nowhere, but Asuka pretty upset. Kairi going to confront her. Io left behind. Rhea tries to comfort her. Doesn't get anywhere. But we'll see where that goes. I'm trying to look through some other high points here from Raw before we get to the main event scene. Dom partnering with one of the Grande Americanos and utilizing their steel plate to win the match. I do believe we're going to see that in AAA. Think that'll go over really well. He might win down in AAA. Did he have that match with Vikingo coming up? If El Grande Americano is there, I think we might see Dom beat Vikingo. I think you throw that AAA title on Dom for a little bit. But anyways, Sammy jumped by the MFTs after getting a quick win on Solo on Friday after the MFTs tag match. There was an impromptu match between Solo and Sammy because it's they're in Canada. Got to bring Sammy out to get the babyface pop. But Solo coming after him for that. And I do wonder where we're heading here with Sammy. I think he could be a Royal Rumble winner next year. I think that could be the path we're starting to set ourselves on here. maybe a little bit of a dark horse there, but I think they could be where we're heading. And if we're gonna feud him with Solo and the MFTs, maybe get him in with Jacob, um, Jacob and Jimmy, depending on if that's gonna be our War Games match or not as well. That could be the way to bring him in again. You know, he's still cool with Jimmy, so who knows? Uh, I think they could be the start of the path we're on here, but also Rusev and Sheamus, they're gonna fight forever. It seems like I don't know if we're getting a blow off at Clash of Paris or what's going on there, but they might just keep that going for another couple months and blow it off at some point. Seems like they're just gonna fight and fight and fight, which is fine by me. Started the show with Punk, and then LA Knight comes out, does that interruption, and it appears that LA Knight has a CM Punk problem and CM Punk has an LA Knight problem. And Jey Uso was introduced back into the mix, and now it looks like Jey Uso may have a problem with them after the end of the night. Um, you know, LA Knight, CM Punk, and LA Knight and CM Punk have their main event match with the Braun Bronze at the end of the night. Now, earlier in the night, we see Seth um, sort of meeting with the Oracle and the Bronze and saying that, you guys have this. I'm going to go get on the jet. Oracle, hit me up. I'll have the Wi Fi. Leading us to believe that Seth is out of the building. Turns out that is not the case. Seth does come out, interrupt the main event when it looks like, that they might get a win over the Bronze. Jey Uso comes out to make the save with the steel chair. Evens out the numbers game. It's at that point that LA Knight and CM Punk get into a brawl for whatever reason. I mean, obviously they're mad at each other from last week, but come on, guys, keep together for 5 minutes. When Jey Uso tries to stop him, oh, this is after Pierce has come out and let Seth know that he's going to have a fatal 4-way at Clash of Paris with Seth Rollins himself, LA Knight, Jey Uso, and CM Punk. Now, LA Knight and CM Punk should be ecstatic. They're not. That's when they start brawling with each other. Jey Uso tries to break it up, gets hit for his troubles. Now they're all laid out. Seth and the Bronze come in and take them out. And end up on top once again because the babyfaces can't get their shit together. So now going into this match at Clash of Paris, looks like that's not going to get any better. And obviously is going to end up costing them the match. Any one of the three, the match, Seth will end up winning this, especially with it being, fatal 4-way, no DQ. The Bronze are getting involved somewhere. We know there will be shenanigans afoot. But yeah, I think Seth's going to win that. And coming off of that, I think it's going to depend what we do in that match. Sort of who is it really in line coming off of that. And where Roman fits into this mix. I think Roman may be there. I'm not sure about the schedule for filming Street Fighter. We had originally heard August, but I think there had been reports that it had been moved to September. So he may, in fact, be there. Or maybe he makes a return there. Maybe we don't see him until Paris and he comes back. I think the outcome there is going to determine who's in line next. Because I don't think, even after this Fatal 4-Way, I don't think we're done with these four together. This is another option, I think, for the War Games match is Seth and the Bronze and whoever else they want to recruit versus those four. Because that also does some good for the CM Punk Roman story, which isn't done. And I think sometime in the next year or two, we're going to get more dedicated involvement in that, and I think getting them together in a War Games match again for the second time would do a lot to further that. But that is where we leave off this week. Excited to see what happens on SmackDown tomorrow night. That is all I have to say for now. Thank you again for tuning in to another edition of DCW. And like, comment, let me know what you think. If there's anything you disagree with me on, be happy to hear it. Have a little friendly discussion in the comments. But otherwise, thanks for tuning in. I'll see you again next week for another edition of DCW. Have a good one.